because Felipe's not here now, obviously. He is in Maryland. I'm in New Jersey. So normally we do these remotely. Like I pull up a little chat window of him here, and then we do it together. And I've really enjoyed doing it with Felipe, and he is going to be coming back and doing that. But he's busy right now. I forget what he's doing, but he's doing something probably with my sister, because they're married and stuff. They do stuff together now as a couple. But when he's eventually done, he'll probably come back next week, I think. And so we'll have him join us then. So for now, it's just going to be us. I hope that's okay, guys. I hope you're not like so in love with Felipe, you're just going to rage quit right now. Actually, that'd be a good thing for you guys to like Felipe. I like Felipe. I love dark mode because white hurts my eyes at night. I agree. I love going dark mode. Like I do that on my browser. I do that on everything because like black is, it's so easy to read stuff with, because all you have are the white letters popping out. Too much white though, that can be a problem. It's probably really bad for your eyes too. Like what's it called? Digital eye strain. It's like a thing they're figuring out now that it's really bad for us to be looking at computer screens all day because of the blue light. I don't know. I put blue light filters on all my screens, but that's also neither here nor there. But how are you guys? Where are you watching from right now? We've got someone from Slovenia over in Europe. We've got, what else? Who else do we have? I'm recognizing half the people here, so I'm just curious where you guys are watching from. It always blows my mind. I haven't updated this map. I need to re-ask you guys during a live stream, like a big live stream on my main channel, like where you guys are from. Because I've gotten a lot of fans from the Philippines recently, because I've been watching some Filipino pop. Well, I have watched some. I need to edit it and put it on my channel. But some Vietnamese pop. I've gotten a lot of Vietnamese followers, so I should update that. But yeah. Texas. There we go. Love Texas. That's a great state right there. I wouldn't mind moving to Texas, personally. If it were Texas or North or South Carolina, those are the other places that in the U.S. I wouldn't mind moving to, other than where I am right now, which I'm not going to be here in the long run. I'm probably going to be going to Maryland in the next few months to be closer to family. What's up, Colby Cheeser? I can see you in the chat down there. What's good? We got the Cheeser in the house. It's another K-pop reactor, by the way. How's that, 5 hours a day of dancing? How's that competition going? Are you still doing that, Colby? Oh, that was awesome. I wanted to see how you were doing with that. All right, so let's see. Argentina. Okay. That's awesome. Argentina. I've never been there. Gotta check that out. My bucket list gets so big with all the different places that I want to go. And I have no money to do that or time. I gotta somehow get famous on YouTube so that I can travel to all of these places and not do anything different. Just I want to check out what it's like living there. I don't want to just go to a touristy spot in Argentina, for example. I'd rather actually go and see what kind of food the local people eat and what kind of things they do for fun. I want to be able to experience another culture. Let's see. PA, Pennsylvania. Okay. How'd you guys get hit with that snow? We got nailed with snow yesterday and the day before. Mostly on Thursday. It was crazy. Work was shut down. Basically everything was shut down. I tried to order Indian food. They didn't even bring it because there was too much snow on the road. I was so hungry. But it was pretty crazy here on the East Coast. It's this winter cyclone going on. I know that Massachusetts got hit hardcore because I was talking to Josh Dove. He's from Massachusetts. And PA got hit too. Not as bad. I was talking to Akbar. He's over in the Philly area, Philadelphia. And he definitely got hit hard too, but just not as hard as more of the Eastern Coast. You're also broke. It's a struggle. I shouldn't say I'm broke. I should say that I have enough to pay my bills and then barely save anything afterwards, which is another reason I'm moving to Maryland. I want to move closer to Maryland, not just to be closer to friends and family, which is really important to me. That's probably the biggest reason, but also because it's freaking expensive here in the New York City area. Like my rent is $2,000 a month. It's insane, and that's before utilities. Like it's incredibly insane to live here. But yeah, other than that, it should be good to move closer to home. The snow is crazy. So you're over in Colorado, right, Colby? Like, did you get hit with snow too? The snow was crazy. You guys get hit hard. Like Colorado, they don't mess around. Like I had a friend over in Greeley, and she was telling me like they hadn't had a snow day in 10 years. And they'll get like 5 feet of snow one morning and it's no big deal. It's just they're so good at clearing the snow out like right away. They're on top of it. And then the opposite is like over in Florida, they get like the smallest dusting of like, it's not even a centimeter of like snow. They can just like dust it off. And then everyone freaks out. The world freaks out. Like Florida just loses it. Like no one goes to school or to church or to work. And it's like madness. It's like a zombie apocalypse when they get a dusting over in Florida. But y'all probably already knew that one. It's pretty funny though, every time I see it. Same thing with California, I think. But yeah. Anyway, what were we doing last week? So last week with Felipe, I'm trying to remember here, we were looking at John chapter 6. And what happened in John chapter 6? So John chapter 6 was, oh right, it was the feeding of the 5,000 people, right? Feeding of the 5,000. It was basically he got a whole crowd of people following him all over the place because they wanted free stuff, and they were like, dude, this guy can make miracles. That's pretty cool. Let's just follow this miracle worker around and get free stuff. And he knew that. He knew that they were just hanging around for the handouts, so he kind of like said some extreme things, didn't really try to soften his words because he was trying to divide it out and get only the real legitimate followers. You know, it's funny that just what popped into my head is like, for K-pop reactors, there's a pressure. We feel the pressure of saying good things, right, Colby? We feel the pressure of like having to say good things in every reaction, you know, like, and not saying anything bad. Or if we did think it was bad, we have to lessen it and make it like not so bad. You know what I mean? Like, if we didn't like the vocals, we'll say, like, oh, you know, the vocals were unique. They weren't necessarily my cup of tea, but I could see how someone would like them. Like, that's what we'll say. It basically means we didn't like the vocals. Well, like, we don't want to insult anyone, but we also don't want to lie. So there's like this balance in the middle where you're trying not to hurt people's feelings, but you also want to be real. Yeah, Jesus didn't do any of that. He basically went hardcore out saying exactly what he was trying to say. People got upset, and most of them left. But the loyal ones, the ones who were actually there and hearing his message and believing what he was saying, they stuck around. And so that's what happened in chapter 6. Just to give you a quick little backstory there. Oh, what's going on here? In Texas, we have ice days instead of snow days. Ice days? Is that what they call it? Is it like ice instead of snow? Or do they just call it at ice days? So true, because my friend in Georgia got snow on Thursday, and literally she was like, what is this powdery white stuff? Georgia! Wait, where is it? So it's Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Okay, so Georgia's right next to Florida. Oh, that makes sense. That's funny. What is this white powdery stuff? I love it. Like, every time I put snow on my Snapchat, I always get people from Saudi Arabia being like, what is, like, that's crazy. How are you driving in that? Like, we don't get any snow over here. And I was like, you don't get snow? I was like, it's so magical, but it's also really annoying. It's a mixture. Jin's dancing is very interesting. Jin isn't always known for his dance skills. I will agree to that for sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, he does, that's a joke, right? Talking about like, we want to soften the blow. We don't want to like say things explicitly. He's not known for being the lead dancer, if you will, but yeah. You know what's funny is my bias in just about any group out there, like name a group, my bias usually has nothing to do with their dancing ability, their singing ability, their any ability. It has to do with their personality every time. Like, that's what I notice right away. I don't know why. Like, other people are like, oh, there's like, his vocals are the best, that's why I like him. I'm like, what? Like, you actually pick someone on their vocals? That makes more sense than what I do. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. Yep. We don't even know how to drive on ice, so no school when it ices. It's tough, you know, like even people that think they know how to drive in ice don't really drive safely. Like here for example, it's crazy in North New Jersey. It's basically New York City, so people are just zipping around going 100 miles per hour in the snow. It's insane. You got to drive slower. You got to be more careful in the snow. People don't always realize that. That's why there's so many people getting in accidents when it snows. But yeah, I saw someone get in an accident just the other day in the snow. You gotta slow down. Like someone actually asked me on Snapchat, they said, I'm not experienced with snow, but I just moved to a region where we're gonna get snow now. Can you give me any tips on how to drive in the snow? And I was like, sure, I'll give you tips. I was like texting her, like basically saying, you know, leave a lot more length in front of the car in front of you. Go slower than you think you should. And, you know, do your best, try to not go out at all. You know, that's just obvious advice, but I don't know, it's good to at least think of those things sometimes. Common sense isn't always so common. But yeah, anyway, this is going to be a little bit of a different live stream, by the way. I'm going to really go back and forth between what we're reading and then what we're talking about. But you guys got to help me out. Like I need, because I don't have Felipe here anymore, so I'm going to need you to get help me with some dialogue here. But yeah, so anyway, that was chapter 6. You know, he fed 5,000 people. It was more like 15,000 because it was just 5,000 men, but there were also women and children. He fed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. It's kind of a big deal. One of the biggest, you know, most well-known miracles anyway. But he, you know, knew that people were just following him for free stuff, so he said he basically dropped a truth nuke, and most of them left, but the loyal ones stuck around. And then that kind of goes perfectly into chapter 7, which is what we're going to be reading now. Boom. That is not chapter 7. That's another feedback of me. Okay. There we go. Chapter 7. I wish we could make this black mode. You know, like down here. Like, I'm loving this black mode, this dark mode of the chat. Did that Indian guy call you and tell you he couldn't make it? Yeah, he did. And I felt so bad because I knew it was snowing outside, but I was so hungry and I wanted chicken tikka masala. And I checked on Yelp and they were still delivering, so I was like, well, if they want to deliver in this cyclone, then I'm not going to tell them they can't. It's a free country. I felt so bad. He actually said that he couldn't make it, you know, and I was like, it's fine. You know, we'll do it another day. So I actually got Indian food again last night, and he did make it, so we're good. I ate the rest of it this morning. None of this is relevant, but it's all important for you to know what I'm eating day to day. So chapter 7. I'm going to read through just the first 9 verses. Like before, we've been reading bigger chunks, but I'm going to go like way smaller chunks and then talk about it. Smaller chunk, talk about it. Smaller chunk, you know what I'm trying to say. So that's what we're going to do today. A little bit different, but it's kind of just the flow that I want to have today. So I'm going to do that. Jesus goes to the tabernacle festival. After this, Jesus went around to Galilee. He did not want to go to Judea because Jewish leaders were there looking for a way to kill him. They just come out and say that. Like, the Jewish leaders try to kill him, so he's trying to stay away from that. But when the Jewish festival of tabernacles was near, Jesus' brothers said to him, leave Galilee and go to Judea so that your disciples there may see the works you do. No one wants to become a public figure, acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the world, for even his own brothers did not believe him. Burn. That kind of hurts to even read. His own brothers didn't believe him. Therefore, Jesus told them, my time is not yet here, for any time will do. The world cannot hate you guys because it hates me. I testify that its works are evil. You go to the festival, I am not going up to the festival because my time is not yet fully come. After he said these things, he stayed in Galilee. So let's just pause there for a second, just one quick second. It's kind of like, when I read this a few days ago when I was like trying to just like skim over it to be familiar with it. That's like a crazy thing I forgot about. That like Jesus' own brothers didn't even believe that he was who he said he was. They like kind of believed he could do miracles because he was obviously doing them, but they didn't believe anything else. And I was like, holy cow, like if there's anyone that should be supporting you, it's your own family. That's kind of crazy. But I don't know. I was just thinking about it a little deeper, and I was like, I'm really blessed to have a family that, well, I have a really big family. I'm one of 5 siblings. But I was blessed in that they support me. They support me in what I do. They supported me when I went to college. They supported me when I started a K-pop channel. You know, there were some jokes there. There were some jokes for sure, but they supported me. They thought it was cool. And that's been so important to me, like having that support. And to not have that, I don't know if I could do half of what I did. They're like a strength in a way. They're such a support. You need support. You gotta have it. It's kind of crazy. There are some times where I felt like I didn't get support, and it was 1,000 times more difficult to do what I was doing. You know, when you know your family isn't supportive or your family disagrees with what you're doing, it's kind of like a big deal. I don't know, but I wanted to ask you guys if you're willing to share an example of a time when you felt you were supported by your family, or what's a time that you felt like you were not supported by your family, and how was that? Just curious. You don't have to go into any details or anything. I was just curious if you had any examples of that. I definitely do for sure. I'm not going to go into too many, but I'd say for the most part I've been pretty blessed with having a supportive family. I think that as supportive as they are with my K-pop channel, I would say that they, at least my extended family, sees it more as a hobby and would probably really hope I don't quit my engineering job to do YouTube full time. They would think that's a mistake and that it would be terrible for me to do that. And I can see exactly why they would think that, and I almost would agree with them. But, you know, so I know that if I were to do that, I wouldn't have a whole lot of support from everyone. I would have support from my immediate family, I think. You know, like my siblings. I think my siblings would be supportive of that. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you guys if there's any times that you felt you were supported by your family or times where you didn't feel like you were. It can be really tough. Sometimes I take for granted that my family is a pretty supportive, a source of support for me. Sorry, I'm staying stuff off topic. No, you're good. You're good, dude. You do whatever you want. You type whatever you want. Like, I didn't even see the comments until now. It was just like rambling off. We had snow in the Christmas, started to melt and turned into freezing rain. Oh, I got you. Washington State. That's like all the way up there in the corner, yo. Yeah, my work friend just moved to Seattle for a different job. She was telling me about the weather there recently. Said it was really gray for a while. I don't know if that's just like a common thing. Starts a K-pop channel. There's some jokes there. Well, yeah, of course there's jokes. I'm white and I'm starting a K-pop channel. Well, for the most part, my family was really supportive. That's awesome. I take it for granted, but I know some people who it's like, it's not that way. And it's eye-opening to see that. But it's so important to have support of your family. Like, that's one thing I think that's really important for me one day when I have my own family, is that I'm supportive of their choices and stuff. There might be times where I won't even agree. There's things that I know that I'm not going to be able to understand because I'm just not from that time. But I still want to have an understanding and try to be able to be supportive, because I know how important it was for me to have my family supporting me. Even when they didn't fully understand. I mean, because, like, think about YouTube. Like, YouTube is so our generation. Our parents, there's a disconnect there. There's a disconnect with them and you. They spent most of their lives without YouTube, without internet. The internet happened 1990 to 1995, which is around where I was born. So, you know, it's just a foreign thing to them. And grandparents forget about it. Like, hey, what's this tubing? They just don't get it. Last summer I went on study abroad in Japan, but before that I'd had some bad panic attacks on the plane. Oh no! Flights. I received a lot of support from my family while I was trying to get over them. Wow, that's awesome that you're able to get support. Like, panic attacks are no joke. Like, they can come out of just nowhere, and they can happen at the most inopportune time. I actually have only gotten panic attacks in the middle of the night for some reason. Like when I wake up at 3 a.m. I don't know if a nightmare sparks them or whatever. I don't remember. All I know is that's when they happen. And it happened when I was younger, but my parents really helped me through that. Thank God I haven't had them since then. But they're no joke. They're terrifying. I mean, I can't imagine having those and not having support and just having to do that alone. Yo, Poppy here. What's good? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2018. It's dark mode. Yeah, it is. My mom has always been ridiculously supportive when it comes to my anxiety, and I've always been able to call her when I have a panic attack. I know some of my friends don't have that support. Yeah, I was just talking to my friend about that. I think it's really important to be able to bring that up and talk about these things, especially mental health, because I feel like it's not handled very well these days. People aren't talking about it. It's more of something that's ignored. In my opinion, I feel like it's something that's ignored more often than it's actually talked about. And when it is talked about, it's not talked about even in a positive light. And even doctors just want to medicate it away. Like, here, take this pill and let's not even talk about our feelings. I just think it's wrong. Not that medication is wrong. I take medication. It's not, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that I think that sometimes there is a balance between the two, and a lot of the times we miss talking about it and having good open conversations about it. Oh, you've had panic attacks too. They suck. There it is. Okay. I lost my window. We got it back. So that's what happened here. So can you imagine like people trying to kill you? Like literally people trying to kill you. Like, you know that if you go to this festival, just fill in the blank, whatever that would mean to you. You show up at this festival, people are going to kill you. They're going to stone you to death or take you away, torture you, and throw you on a cross. Like, that's his situation, and he doesn't have his family support. They're thinking, yeah, go anyway. How can you get famous if you're not going to show up in these public places? They're like taunting him. Sucks. That's what Jesus has to deal with. He does everything solo, and by solo, I mean in this carnal world. But he does have that vertical relationship, which is why he's able to keep going. I remember a few years ago when older brother kind of strayed away, I felt betrayed because he had always been there for me and promised to protect me forever. Wow. That makes sense. That's tough. Like, I have two older brothers, so growing up, I always was following them around. And I think they would protect me if they needed to, but I never really got that. I didn't get that feeling too much growing up. It was like more like they were bullying me. Like, I got bullied a lot by them. But I know today it's completely different. But yeah, for sure. I think it was more of, I viewed my parents as the ones that would protect me, not my siblings. My siblings, it was like a free-for-all. There were so many of us. I was one of 5. So it was more of just like this crazy rat race of running around trying to survive. But the way that you viewed your brother, I probably viewed my parents that way, I think. But that's tough. He strayed away. And by strayed away, are you saying like he physically left, like for college or for work, or that he just stopped showing up, or... Just curious. Not related to this channel, but I'm really glad it's the new year now, so K-pop comebacks will come more now. Yeah, it's been a slow month for K-pop. December was just, what even came out? Like, EXO had a winter album, I think, and that's it. There were some other things too, smaller things. November was Comeback City. That's why I've been checking out some other genres on my channel, because K-pop's dry right now. We need to wait for these comebacks to happen. But I always have to remember that no one is perfect. That's so true. I have a problem with that. I beat myself up. I have these perfect standards in my mind. Like, standards I'll hold myself to that aren't even realistic. Like, in these New Year's resolutions, you guys are mentioning New Year's. What's up, Chromium? So these I'm big on New Year's resolutions, like really, really big. And I make so many goals for myself. I make goals like every year, every month within that year, every week in that month, in that year. Like I make goals on goals on goals, but they're always unrealistic. Like I push myself. I'm like, I don't know, like I want to read a chapter in the Word in the Bible every single day, no matter what. Well, sometimes I'll forget, or I'm out in the Philippines and I don't even have my Bible with me, or just like whatever, and then I beat myself up for not getting that done when it might not have even been a realistic goal. But that's so true for everything, I think. But no one's perfect. No one's perfect. Like I'll get mad at friends when I realize that if I were to never text them, we just would never talk again. You know, but some people are just really bad at keeping up with friends. They're just not good at that. You know, there's two types of friends. So the ones that stay in touch and the ones that kind of don't. But it doesn't mean they're not your friend. It just means they're not good at doing that. But perfect. No one's perfect. And once I realized that, and it's been a process, but once I realized I'm not perfect, no one's perfect. The people I think are perfect are not perfect. No one's perfect. Like it allows me to forgive myself and forgive others and to be more realistic. For sure. How was your Christmas and New Year's? It was good. It was good. That kind of, I've never been understanding my needs and how sensitive I am. It's tough for someone who's not sensitive to be sensitive to someone who is sensitive. I know that for sure. I feel like my personality, especially through high school, was like a really insensitive person. Like someone who is just very analytical, black and white. I was basically a robot. Well, not really, but that's kind of like my personality. If you ever take the Myers-Briggs personality test, I was about as analytical as it gets, ISTJ. And that can be good, and it can also be really bad. When I got to college, I started to have a bunch of roommates around me who were the opposite. Like everyone in my friend circle was the opposite of me in that way. So I started learning through experiences, through sometimes heated moments. I started learning how important it was to be sensitive to other people, how everyone responds to things differently. We all communicate a different way. And slowly over time, over like 5-6 years to now, I feel like I'm much more sensitive to people. It was a really long process though, but I'm more sensitive to people. I can be more understanding, and I'm not perfect by far. I have a long way to go, but I want people to know that, especially people that are like my personality type of being pretty analytical, it shouldn't just be an excuse, that's just the way you are, because each side can learn to be somewhere in the middle more. But it's a process. It definitely is a process. It's tough though. It's a difficult thing because they say your personality overall is almost never changing. And that might be true, that you can't change some of the fundamental aspects of yourself, but I do think you can change the way you understand someone else. And that can change the way you act. That's just me though. Carissa says, it depends on what I talk about or what I have been into. Photography for a while, and they are supportive of me trying, but they also tell me it might not give me a good income. I get it, Carissa. That makes a lot of sense. You know, like your family wants to be supportive of you. They're like, okay, we know that you like photography, you have a passion for that, and we're excited, and we want you to do well, but we see in general photographers don't make a good income. So it's like they're concerned, but they also want to be supportive. So I'm sure it's this like clash that's happening. That happened with my sister Joy. She went off and studied graphic design at SCAD University, a really great graphic design school. It's ranked very high. And she eventually transferred to Maryland University and finished there. But she ended up getting graphic design and photography. And there were some concerns. I remember my family saying things exactly like that, like, well, you might not make a lot of money, and it might be difficult to pay the bills and stuff. But Joy proved them wrong. Joy's a very unique person, though, but she basically started her own photography business. She started a wedding photography business, and she has been extremely successful. And she started a YouTube channel. You can look her up if you want, Joy and Michelle Photography. And she's doing very well, very, very well. So she proved them wrong. But my family, they weren't trying to be mean or unsupportive. I think that they were trying to be wise and try to give good advice, but it can still really hurt. Like if Joy was on here with me and we were talking, she'd probably talk about how it was difficult to not have the support that she felt she needed. It's tough. I'm going to work on trying to be happier this year and lose some weight. That's the good goals. I'm trying to be happier and gain weight because I'm falling below the level of what should be a healthy weight. I think I've lost a lot of weight because I don't take care of myself enough. I don't eat enough. I just get distracted because of how much I do. So I'm trying to gain. But yeah, no, those are really good goals. I think that it's important to try to be realistic too, because like for me, I'll be like, oh, I want to gain 40 pounds of muscle this year. It's like, what? That's okay. So what? You're gonna spend like 5 hours a day at the gym now? It's like, no, I don't have time for that. It's not realistic. And I'm just gonna get disappointed and upset at myself at the end of the year, and then my self-esteem is gonna lower, then it's gonna hurt me with the next goals, and it's gonna be this repetitive cycle of destruction. So I wanted to stop that. My goals this year sounds so different than my goals last year. Any goals that I've made in the past, my goals this year just seem so different. And I think that's a good thing. I'm trying to find a balance. Like one of my goals this year, for example, I never thought I'd make this goal. One of my goals is to do less drama, to be involved in less drama, to not have as much drama in my life. And I'm not talking K-dramas or watching, just normal theatrical events. I'm talking having less gossip and less spiteful conversations, less complaining, argumentative dialogues with people. So I want to have less drama in my life. I just want to be part of it less. And that comes from people talking to me about it, and that from me talking to other people about it. I want to, complain less about work. I want to complain less about family, because drama, I feel like, is the opposite of progress. There's progress, healthy, fruitful progress in relationships and whatever, but I feel like drama is the opposite of that. You lose ground. You're not gaining. I don't know how I'm going to do that, because drama is a tough thing to measure, obviously, but I want to make some efforts to do less of that. So we're talking New Year's resolutions for people coming in right now, and we're talking about a balance between things. We just read John chapter 7 verses 1 through 9, and we saw that basically, the Jewish leaders are trying to kill Jesus. He's trying to be careful of where he travels to because he knows they're trying to kill him. So his brothers are basically telling him, Jesus' brothers, because people sometimes forget, Jesus had brothers and sisters, he had a whole family. Jesus' brothers are basically telling him, do whatever you want, go to these public places, if you are who you say you are, you do whatever you want. They don't believe him. They're like mocking him, they're making fun of him, and they're not supporting him. And we were just talking about examples of how we felt supported or not by our family and how that's been. So that's just an example. Well, he was married, but then another person came into the picture. Oh, okay, got you. Talk about your family member. Hi, guys. So I'm like, Maddie, what's good? How's it going, Maddie? No problem for being late. Oh, I'm missing a bunch of comments. Sorry, guys. Strayed from his faith as well. I understand. That's terrible. It's hard to see that happen to a family member when someone was in the faith and then they stray from it. It's tough to see because it's not typically a thing where they stray from the faith and then they start doing really well. Not that you have to be in the faith to do well, but typically it's the opposite effect. It's where they start changing for the worse. They stop staying in contact with family. They stop just being themselves. They start changing into someone you don't recognize, and it's tough. It's tough to see all of that happening at once. Maddie. I feel that with people who I don't know wouldn't talk to me unless I talk to them. It makes me really insecure, and my friendships sometimes, especially with my friend who lives in Japan, I fear losing them. I understand 100%. 100%. I really do. Probably more than most people. I'm that friend who will always be keeping in contact with you. I'll be on like a routine basis. You'll get probably a text from me once every couple months, no matter what, saying, hey, how are you? What's it going? Like, that's just in my DNA to do that. It's easy for me. It's automatic. But some people are really bad at that. Some people, they just clueless. They just don't know, and they're not aware. They don't have that emotional or social intelligence, or they're just not motivated as an individual or whatever. It's not even personal, and they just don't keep up with their friends, and it hurts them. They end up losing a lot of their friends because they just don't make an effort to keep in touch with them. But then you can be on the receiving end, like right here, and be like, I feel like I'm losing my friends if I don't text them. I would challenge that and say, as an encouraging word, even though it might seem counterintuitive, that's not always a bad thing to lose a friend. I know it sounds counterintuitive, like you'd never want to lose a friend, but it's not always a bad thing. I've looked in my life and seen the people who have come into my life and left my life, and I'm always sad when I lose a friend. I've lost a couple friends in 2017, and that was tough. It was really tough. Some close friends, but I saw it wasn't a bad thing in the long run, because if they're not going to make an effort, and you're the only one making an effort, even when you're hanging out, it can be that way, then that's not a very fruitful relationship. It's not going to be a positive thing. And some people might just be in your life for a season, for a specific purpose, and at a specific time. And once that time passes, when that season's over, it's probably best for things to move on the way that they should naturally. It's not always a bad thing. I think there can be people who can bring you down emotionally, people that are emotional vampires, if you will. You know, like, we all know those people, right? The people who, you know, that if you go and talk to them, they're going to complain about something or someone. They're going to complain for an hour, and after that hour's over, you're going to be exhausted, and they're going to feel great. It's an emotional vampire. It's not always a bad thing to have people not in your life anymore, but it depends. But it is tough losing someone, and I understand that 100%. Good to bad, it's hard to say. While not wise, sorry, it's a mistake. He's telling me that I need to be more accepting of my dad as he likes. Oh, he's autistic, I see. I know that autism is on a spectrum, and that there's different levels of how autistic someone is. I know that sometimes autistic people can't, or they have trouble understanding other people and their feelings. That makes sense. That's tough. I feel like my friends who say that they really love me around, love me, appreciate me, etc., aren't really being genuine. It's tough. It's really tough. Oh, sorry guys if I'm missing your comments. I'm going through this. Lots of carbs too, Josh. Oh, for gaining weight. Yeah, I gotcha. Just being aware of drama and gossip when it happens can be helpful. I often take a step back from my conversations and analyze my feelings and why I'm being grumpy or complaining. That's a smart thing to do, to see a big picture and ask why. I feel like people don't do that very often. Yeah, I gotta watch those K-dramas, but in all seriousness, I agree with you. It's so easy to get caught up in dramas and gossip. I get caught up in drama. It's bad. I think I like drama. I think I love drama. I've never really thought about it, like how much I love or hate drama, but I think I do love drama. Like when I hear over in the other cubicle being like, you wouldn't believe what Stephanie did. I'm like, what did Stephanie do? And I want to know what Stephanie did. I don't even know who Stephanie is or what they're talking about, but it sounds juicy and I want in. It sounds so scandalous and it sounds exciting. It's probably because I get bored at work, you know, like work is almost never glamorous in the corporate world. You know, some people have their dream job and that's great. But a lot of the times it's just crunching numbers and doing things you don't want to do. And so when you hear something scandalous about Tiffany, you want to know what it is, but you got to nip it in the bud. Like you said, just being aware of the drama when it happens is so helpful to taking a step back and getting a reality check and being like, I'm not going to get involved in this. Where are we? And it's not only often harmful to those participants, it also distracts from our walk in Christ. At least that's how it is for me. I agree, and that's a big thing for me too, because I read over and over again in the Bible, every chapter, every verse, in a different way, it's saying that we're supposed to be loving. and we're not supposed to be. I feel like drama and gossip is the opposite of loving. In Proverbs 11, it says that whoever derides their neighbor has no sense, meaning whoever tears their neighbor down verbally, whoever's gossiping about their neighbor has no sense, is basically stupid. And whoever has understanding and wisdom holds their tongue. And I was thinking, what does that mean for me? It probably means that like anytime I'm angry at someone and I start gossiping about them to other people, it probably means I'm dumb. It probably means I don't really understand this situation. I don't understand that person. Because if I understood that person and I understood that situation, I probably wouldn't feel angry at all. I'd probably just feel sad for them, or I'd want to help them, or you know what I'm trying to say? I think that gossip and anger and strife and offense comes from a place of us not seeing the whole picture. And God sees the whole picture, and that's why he's constantly telling us not to get involved in drama. So I completely agree. It can get in the way of our walk with Christ. It's sad to lose friends, but you can always work on a new relationship that may become stronger than the old one. I completely agree that your old relationships can sometimes be holding you back from what you should really be involved with. Good or bad, hard to say. You know what I mean? Like, there's this old proverb talking about this farmer whose horse ran away. It was his only horse. And his neighbors came over and they were like, "We're so sorry to hear about this. It's terrible." And the farmer just said, "Good or bad, hard to say." And, you know, his neighbor's like, okay. They just went away. The next day, the horse returned and it brought back 5 of its friends. It met other horses, it brought back 5 horses. So now the farmer had 6 horses. And the neighbors came over and were like, "This is awesome. You've got 6 horses now. You've gotten so many more blessings from losing your horse." And the farmer just said, "Good or bad, hard to say." And so, you know, neighbors were like, "How could this be a bad thing?" And so they leave. And the next day, the farmer's son gets on one of the wild horses and tries to ride it. The wild horse kicks off the son, and the son breaks his leg. The neighbors come by and say, "It's so terrible, your son broke his leg. You know, we're sorry to hear that." The farmer says, "Of course, good or bad, hard to say." The next day after that, some of these army officers come by because there's a draft for the war. And they're picking up people and making them come and fight for the country. And they go to his son, because his son was on the list, and they see he has a broken leg, so they say, "Well, we can't use him in war, so we'll have to pass on him." And the neighbors come over and say, "Oh, that's so good that he didn't have to go and fight. He didn't have to risk his life." And this father, of course, says, "Good or bad, hard to say." And the story goes on and on and on all these events that seem good or seem bad, but they show that they're actually the opposite. But the father, you know, the farmer, is really the wise one, because he's trying to say that I don't understand everything that's going on in this world. So I'm not always going to freak out when something bad or something really good happens. I want to keep my head and be wise. But it's, you know, it's just, I think it's a good example of us and how limited we are in our own vision, our own scope of understanding. My mom and dad got a divorce when I was really young, so my mom had a lot of work a lot, so I ended up feeling protected by my 2 older siblings more than my parent. That's tough. It's tough. I guess it's kind of been the opposite for me. I felt like more protected by my parents than my siblings, Carissa. But that's tough, though, you know. And the person I was dating for 3 years, it was the exact same situation with her. So I feel like I understand. I've seen it. It's tough, you know, having a single working mom, single working parent. I was kind of lucky in one sense that my parents didn't get divorced until I was 15. Things were difficult for a couple of years at this time, but after 4 or 5 years, my mom and dad get on better now. Well, I'm glad that they're better. Remarried, and my dad is living. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I hope that things work out for them. The good or bad, hard to say, is something that whole story is something that is so important for me to remember all the time, because I'm quick to judge, and that's a bad character trait about me, but I don't like how judgy I can be, and it's automatic, and I'm trying to train myself the opposite. I can get offended sometimes and realize how stupid I was to even get offended, and so I'm trying to remember that. We just don't see the big picture, and if we did, I don't think we would ever get angry at someone. I think we can only feel sadness, or we feel we want to like wanting to help them. Kind of like the feelings that God would have, but we can't, because we're mortal. I'll give you an example. I was in college, my sophomore year, my second and third year of college. There was this guy I met, and he, was one of our roommates, and he came into our friend circle. It's not important what the names were, but this guy and I never got along. Immediately we were clashing. I got along with everyone else, but I didn't get along with this particular guy. And he was kind of outside of our group, but he came in, a little bit like alpha male. So maybe I didn't like he was leading my friends around. But I always felt like he was really judgmental of me, and I always didn't like that. And I always got the wrong vibes from him, and I was always offended, and I just didn't like this guy, and he didn't like me. So we always clashed each other. For years, we clashed with each other. And he always was really judgy of every time I would have a drink, like if I had a beer or whatever. If I was drinking any type of alcohol, he was really judgy. He was like, oh, I never drink. And I was like, okay, that's fine that you never drink, but why is it bad that I drink? He's like, well, I don't need to drink to have fun. And I'm like, I don't either. So I was like, I always felt really judged by this guy. And I would get ticked off that I felt like he was judging me for having a drink. And I didn't really feel like he had a good explanation. So I kind of held this against him. And one of the reasons I really didn't like him. And I would just like judge him and gossip about him behind his back, and I assumed he did the same thing with me. And it wasn't healthy at all. It was an unhealthy situation, and it caused a lot of drama, unnecessary drama. And I felt like I knew him, and I was judging him because of what I thought I knew about him. And it wasn't until later, it wasn't until 2 years after I met this guy, that I started to learn more about his life. And one night, I actually decided to kind of like get to know him a little better, have a conversation with him. One night I stayed up like 3 hours and talked to this guy. It was like a casual conversation. There were some other people in the room, we're just all hanging up one night and like hanging out. That's kind of what you do in college. When you're rooming with a bunch of guys, sometimes you'll just hang out and talk to each other and stay up late. So we were doing that, and I learned that this guy had an alcoholic dad, that his dad was a heavy drinker and almost abusive, and it was a really traumatic thing growing up in that family. And that because he saw that, and it almost destroyed his parents' marriage multiple times, he's hated alcohol for good reason. And that's why he never drinks, never. And that's why you would have those feelings about when I would drink. And I didn't know any of that. I didn't know the way his father was, or the way his family was growing up and how it was affected. And I'm sure it's too personal to share with someone, right away when you meet. So it wouldn't make sense for him to even tell me that. But once I saw the reason why he was the way he was, immediately I didn't feel judged by him. I didn't feel angry at him. I didn't feel any of the things that I felt. I actually felt like I understood him. I understood why he was the way he was, and I didn't get offended by it. And it actually was a good thing. It started this healing process. I was able to talk to him more honestly, and it was a good thing. We eventually parted ways. He graduated and got a job somewhere. I graduated, got a job somewhere else. But we don't have any ill will towards each other anymore, and that's a really good thing. But that's just one example. I don't know if any of that made sense. I've never told that story really before, so I'm just kind of blah blah blah, pouring it out. But that one example was so telling, because now if I get the same feelings about someone, I have to remember there's probably things I don't know, there's things I don't understand, and if I did, I probably wouldn't feel the same way. I'd probably feel love towards the individual. I'm sorry I'm missing these comments. Yeah, the people I most look up to are the ones that try to be positive no matter what. That's such a positive trait. If I were to ever marry a girl, that's something that I always look for in a girl, is if they're a positive person, if they're just in a good mood, if no one has to make them happy, they're just a happy individual. Like, that's so attractive to me. You know what I mean? Like someone who's just always just exuding joy. I love it. It's such a positive thing. Sister says that I do tend to make a big thing out of something, and reality is actually quite small. Life is hard and really confusing often for me. Hey, you and everyone else, join the club. We get it. Life is tough. But, we're made to be social creatures, and we're doing it now. We're hanging out together, talking about life and encouraging each other. We're using the greatest self-help book of all time. I feel bad even calling it a self-help book. It's really the only help book out there that has the answers. I can feel you popping. I often close myself off to my emotions, but I know that's not healthy. It's not healthy. I'm a firm believer in getting your feelings out. That being said, I very rarely do it. It's bad. I'm a firm believer in saying what's on your mind and not keeping it bottled up. Even atheists who are experts in that field, like psychologists, therapists, they're all saying you have to get those things out. It's so important. But it's tough, which is why I rarely do it. It's very difficult. I'm still working on that myself. I've been friends with you, Jenny, Josh, for a long time. Hey, I hope so too. Chromie, Sam, I always feel like the people that are the most positive are the ones that you feel like you know, but they turn. It's tough. No problem. No problem. I like sharing with y'all. Feeling closer, we're getting this connection here. But yeah, so let's read the next couple verses here. It's just gonna be, we read 1 through 9. Let's see, now we're gonna check out 10 through 24. 10 through 24. Starting here. However, after his brothers had left the festival, he also went not publicly, but in secret. Now at the festival, the Jewish leaders were watching for Jesus and asking, "Where is he?" Among the crowds, there was a widespread whispering about him. Some said, "He is a good man." Others replied, "No, he deceives people." But no one would say anything publicly about him, for in fear of the leaders. This is when Jesus starts teaching again. Not until halfway through the festival did Jesus go up to the temple courts and begin to teach. The Jews were there and amazed and asked, "How did this man get such learning without having ever been taught?" Jesus replied, "My teaching is not my own. It comes from the one who sent me. Anyone who chooses to do the will of God will find out whether my teaching comes from God or whether I speak on my own. Whoever speaks on their own does so to gain personal glory, but he who seeks the glory of the one who sent him is a man of truth. There is nothing false about him. Has not Moses given you the law, yet none of you keep the law? Why are you trying to kill me?" It's a good question. It's a really good question. Oh, Bubble Tea, what's good? Welcome. Verse 20. "You are demon-possessed," the crowd said. "Who is trying to kill you?" A lot of people are trying to kill him right now. Jesus said to him, "I did one miracle and you are all amazed. Yet when Moses gave you circumcision, though actually it did not come from Moses but from the patriarchs, you circumcise a boy on the Sabbath. Now if a boy can be circumcised on the Sabbath so that the law of Moses may not be broken, why are you angry with me for healing a man's body on the Sabbath?" This is one of my favorite verses in the entire chapter. Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. So basically what happened here is Jesus just turned their world on their heads, because the Jews, the Pharisees, they're obsessed with the law. They're obsessed with a book of do's and don'ts. Do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And they think that if they do all these things right, they're going to heaven. That's not the way that heaven works. That's not the way salvation works. It's completely different doctrine. It's not by works. It's not by doing these things and not doing these things, and that's how we get right with God. It's about accepting God's sacrifice for us and believing in him and what he does for us. So it's belief and faith, not works. And that's it's unique about Christianity. It's really tough for us as, just people who do everything. It's just tough for us to I guess, relate with that, because it just feels like we have to earn it, I guess, if that makes sense. That's kind of the way I look at it. Like, I feel like I have to earn it, but it's not something we can earn. It isn't. It just isn't. So they're obsessed with the law. And when Jesus heals someone on the Sabbath day, that's a really big deal. Why? Because they have this rule that you can't do any work on the Sabbath. It's a holy day. It's God's day. You're not supposed to do any work at all. You're not supposed to cut down any grain. You're not supposed to, I don't know, plow any fields. I'm assuming they had a lot of occupations surrounding the agriculture industry because it's still developing as a world. But they're not supposed to do work on the Sabbath. And he healed a guy. They're calling that work. Now they want to kill him. And he's basically saying, you all have lost your minds, which is true. They have. They completely lost sight of what the purpose of the law was. A couple chapters ago, he says the law was never intended to keep people from doing good. And he's saying you need to back up, look at the big picture, have a reality check, and stop ruining your lives from these laws. And he's saying you guys are doing the exact same thing, and it's not wrong. He's saying you guys, if the circumcision happens to fall on a Sabbath, you guys still do it. Technically, that's work, and that's okay. And, they don't say anything, really. They stop there. They completely change the conversation. They completely change the topic because they have nothing to say to that. That happens throughout all this book of John. He constantly drops a truth bomb on them. They're like, that's a good point. But, they change the subject. But that's kind of what's going on here. It's tough. The laws won't save us. It's really only Jesus. Oh, hold up. Missing some of these comments. Sorry, guys. Bubble Tea gets in. Out, not up. We got a spelling correction. People saying hello to Bubble Tea. Yeah, I feel like where I started judging. I need to start questioning whether the bigger picture a while ago. I didn't like this guy for stupid reasons, but later I found out that he had short-term memory loss. Wow. I've been there. I judged a guy at work back in high school when I worked at Panera Bread. I was a sandwich maker. I worked at Panera Bread for a couple of years, and there was this guy in the kitchen. He would wash dishes, and I would always get a little ticked off because the guy never even remembered my name. Like, I would tell him every day, he's like, what's your name? And I'm like, I'm Josh. He's like, oh, okay. And it's like he never even knew me, or he didn't know anything about anyone all the time. And I was like, is this guy just clueless? Is he high? Like, what's going on here? I figured out the guy has complete memory loss, meaning each day resets in his mind. He doesn't like carry over any information because he had this hunting accident growing up. And during surgery, the breathing tube came out. Basically, his brain got starved, and now he can't remember things. I didn't know that. Like, we get mad, and we have no reason to get mad. No real reason. If we actually understood everything, I feel like we wouldn't ever really get mad. Not in the way that we do now. We'd get maybe a righteous anger like God gets, but it's different. Oh my goodness, hello everyone. Hello Grace. Probably missed like the whole live stream. Where are we right now? So we're in John chapter 7, and we're in verses 10 through 24. We're probably not even going to read a whole lot more. I'm taking smaller chunks and having more conversation. Next week, Felipe will be back, and we'll have like a lot more of like going through things quicker. But we're just reeling back. We're having like we're easing into 2018. And I felt horrible that it didn't give him the time of day. I understand. That makes sense. I think that's such an important thing to remember, is that we don't have all the information, and we should be slow to judge, slow to get angry. Otherwise, we're going to regret it. Even in this day and age, 21st century, people still judge other people. Yeah, we do. We judge people wrongly all the time. Carissa. My dad's an alcoholic, so I promised myself that I would never drink alcohol, but I'm thankful that he tried to not let his kids see him drinking. Wow, gotcha. Say kind of like alcoholism can skip a generation because the next generation, they can get the opposite effect and want to like never touch alcohol, which I think can sometimes be a good thing if that's an issue. The government judged wrongly in the UK about disabled people. Really? I don't know anything about that. That's interesting. I'd have to look into it. Teenagers are rude and unfair to disabled people. Oh, wow. Be slow to judge. I still have remained myself to do that. It's so tough to do, but I think it's such an important thing to do. Slow to judge. It's funny how we sense negative vibes directed our way. We get defensive instead of taking the time to wonder what's actually going on. That's so true. How many times have we ever felt like verbally attacked in a conversation, and immediately we're defensive. We have to explain ourselves. We have to justify our actions instead of being like, wait a minute, you're mad, you're upset. Why? I want to understand. I want to know where you're coming from. There's got to be something here that we can work out together. I could probably explain some things to you that if you were able to see that the way that I do, we wouldn't be angry at all. It comes from conversation and it comes from humility. You need both those things. If you don't have humility, you don't have conversation, you're just going to stay angry at each other. So more people get afraid, see fear of offending someone. Wow. I didn't know that was an issue. I need to look into that. That's tough. That's something going on all over the world. It's happened since the dawn of time. People treating anyone that's less than perfect as subhuman. And even Hitler did that. He would just execute thousands of disabled people, saying they weren't really human. They were subhuman. So gross, sick. It comes from the devil, really. That's some Satan stuff right there. But yeah, it's tough. So what are some things we could do in 2018 to avoid some drama? I'm actually asking you guys because, as I was saying before, my New Year's resolution for 2018 was to have less drama in my life, and that goes from not being a part of other people's drama and also to not be gossiping myself and not to be judging myself. So I'm trying to, that's my goal. I don't really know 100% how to even do that, but I'm going to try to start making an effort. I know it's the beginning of the year, but I still want to I want to know some practical ways that I can maybe avoid drama in this year from now on. Like one thing that you guys mentioned already, which I thought was really good, was just being aware of when drama is being said. Like when someone comes up to you and they're like, you wouldn't believe what happened the other day with this person. You wouldn't believe what they did to them. Just when drama starts happening, just to recognize that and say, all right, I'm not going to be a part of that. Or maybe just not getting involved in, not giving your opinions. Just the simple act of probably not giving your opinion would probably really help. Try to be kinder to other people. I think that actually touches on something very profound. I don't think it's possible to be loving someone and hating someone simultaneously. I think it's really one or the other. You're either loving someone in that moment or you're hating someone in that moment. And if we're hating someone, if we're mad at someone, if we're judging them and we're hating them and everything's about hate, that's what's going to come out. But I think that if in that moment we make a conscious decision to love, I don't think it's possible to feel hate when you're trying to love that person. So it's like kind of turning it on its head and trying something else. Whoa. Kamehameha! Maybe that's what that came from. What I like to pray is that I learn to see things, and especially people, the way God sees them, and so much would change. I love that. I love it. It reminds me of that one Christian contemporary song. I need to look it up. I need to think of it. About seeing things through God's eyes. That's such a profound prayer. I really like that. Being able to say, I know I'm not going to see things wholly and completely. I'm not omniscient. I'm not omnipotent, but God is. So Lord, help me to see things the way that you do. I love that. And that's a good prayer when you're in the middle of drama, I think, too. If you're ever in the gossip circle, just to say, we're not seeing things the way God is. So, Lord, help us to see things the way you will. Interesting. That's a good one. I'm going to remember that. Thank you, Grace. But yeah, stop judging on mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. See, this is a different version. This is NIV. Let me go grab my ESV. Well, it's not even ESV. It's NAS, New American Standard, I think is what this one is. That's what I've been reading recently. I didn't even pick this intentionally. I just oh, this is a cool Bible, and then I bought it, and I was like, oh, this isn't the version that I thought it was, but I like it. In the New American Standard Version, this verse here is completely different. It says, look beneath the surface so you can judge correctly. I love that translation. I love it. It said, look beneath the surface so you can judge correctly. And to me, that's saying, open your eyes and try to see the bigger picture, or try to see the details. Try to see something other than what you're seeing, because there's more information there. And if you were able to see the big picture, you wouldn't be feeling what you're feeling. I love that verse. Can we just stop there? Because I feel like that's a great place to stop. This is Jesus himself who said this. These are golden nuggets of wisdom that are 100% applicable to our lives today. That's why I love the Bible. This thing is so full of truth and wisdom, and it's awesome. I love this book. But yeah, I think I'm gonna add this to my memory verses. I'm trying to be careful what I add to my verses, because like it can get too big and then I start forgetting verses, and I'm bad with remembering stuff. But that's a good one to remember. I really like that. But yeah, like it. I'm curious, to everyone watching right now, what are some of your New Year's resolutions, or some things that you want to accomplish in 2018, or some things you want to do differently in 2018, or some changes you want to make, or maybe some things you're excited to do. It could be getting a job, or moving to college, or I don't know, accomplishing some goal, or starting a hobby, or traveling. Or I've seen a lot of different resolutions on social media over the past few days, but I'm curious, what are your guys' resolutions? I was saying in the beginning, one of my resolutions is to have less drama in my life. I never thought I would have a resolution like that. It sounds so, like, to me, to like the type of person I am, it just sounds silly when I say it, but it's true, and I really do want to have less drama in my life, and I think it's an important one. But I'm just curious, what your guys' New Year's goals were. Wanted to know. When I was preteen, I didn't like kids, so I didn't know why I didn't. I just prayed that I wouldn't see them. Wow, that's awesome. It was kind of the same. I thought kids were kind of annoying. And then over time, as I had a little sister. I think I was 12 or 13 years old by the time that my little sister Julia was born. And then now I love kids, and my little sister is a kid, and I love spending time with her. And then she was able to talk, and then I stopped liking kids. As soon as she could talk, I was like, I liked her better when she couldn't talk. But that's a selfish thing, it just comes from a root of selfishness. And then I stopped liking kids. And then I started to hang out with kids again when I would help out at church for, kindergarten through K through 3rd grade or whatever. I would help out just with the Sunday school. And I had some cool kids in class, and they were great and hanging out with them. And so I started liking kids again. And then recently they moved me to hang out with and help teach the kids who are 2.5 to 4 years old, and those are a completely different bunch, and they don't like listening. So I stopped liking kids again. So it's been flip-flopping back and forth. Now I love kids though. I do. I really do. But sometimes there can be difficult situations, but you just gotta approach it with love and try to be mature and not also act like a 3-year-old. That's the key. I think. My friend got me a Korean Bible. Do you read Korean? I don't have it yet, but I'll look forward to checking it out. That's cool. I will do an exchange semester this year. It's not completely clear where I'm going, but I'm hoping Hong Kong. That's awesome. I wish I did an exchange program like that. I'm really jealous of people who get to do that. I did some things, just not anything like a full-on international exchange program. I wish I did something like that. That's really cool. My grandfather told me once to put myself in the judgment seat and picture myself trying to judge every single person's life, and it puts everything into perspective real quick. That's so true. That is so true. Put yourself in the judgment seat. Picture myself trying to judge every single person's life. That's wise right there. I was recently diagnosed with celiac, so I can draw on muscles at the moment. Doesn't have to worry about me anymore. Also. Wow. That's a great goal. So is that gluten-free? I don't even know. I'm not sure what I gotta look this up. Autoimmune disorder, genetically predisposed. Oh, gluten. That's what it's called. Gotcha. Yeah, I know people like that too. No, that makes sense. I'm like slightly that way actually. I'm like a little bit adverse to gluten. I didn't know that until I'm like, oh, that's why every time I eat grain I get like, hot flashes or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just pregnant. But yeah, so I'm looking at gluten-free options these days because apparently, just reducing gluten for the average person can be a healthy thing as long as you have other healthy options. But there's a lot of gluten-free choices at restaurants these days. Like it's like a trendy thing now. It's actually pretty cool. There's a lot of vegetarian options too. Like I didn't even realize how many vegetarian options there were in the US until I started hanging out with Indian people who only obviously eat vegetarian stuff. So they'll tell me about all the vegetarian options. It's amazing. Like I thought if you didn't eat meat, you would have like no options. But over in India, they've got so much variety. And I'm like in love with Indian food right now. That's a solid New Year's goal though. Definitely need to work on coming out of my shell and expressing myself better because that's what injures my confidence the most. That's a great goal. Coming out of your shell. It's like, I guess another way of saying it is like getting out of your comfort zone. I think the most growth that'll ever happen in your life is when you step outside your comfort zone. Like as soon as you do that, the whole world of opportunity is there. It's tough. It's so tough coming out of your comfort zone, but it's always rewarding. I have loved looking after babies and children ever since I was a kid. Oh, it's great. I found so many full foods to eat. Disease and result from stuff to eat. Can only read tiny bits of Korean, like Happy New Year, Happy Birthday, I love you. I can read I love you, and that's it. And only when it's in a certain font. I'm pretty bad with Korean. I know some phrases, obviously, I'll just know phrases, but reading it's a completely different thing. It's not even that tough. Like their alphabet's pretty straightforward. Certain foods. If you want to know any tips about eating gluten-free, I've learned a lot. Oh, hey, you guys should hit each other up in the group chat. That's how I'll end this. You guys need to join the group chat because it's awesome. Where is it? It's happening on here. It's on KakaoTalk. It's an app. You should download. It's in the description. I bet most of the people watching this reaction right now are in this chat. But it's an awesome chat where the people here just continue to hang out in the chat later throughout the week. Just asking for prayer for things or asking for advice or just posting cute pictures of their dogs, which happens a lot, which I'm happy about. I'm a huge fan of dogs. If people start posting pictures of their cats, well, then you'll probably see me disappear for a little bit. I'm just kidding. I actually didn't like cats for a while, but then my brother got cats, and then I really liked his cats, and I was like, okay, maybe I like cats. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, you guys should join the group chat. All the info is in the description of this stream. And everyone that's watching this after the stream is over, it's all in there. So if you want to join it, just feel free to do that. But yeah, what time is it? Oh, it's 1:20. We're doing great on time. When did I start? 12? So we've been going about an hour and 20 minutes. Keep forgetting to get on Kakao. So, yeah, this is a good place to stop. I know we didn't get as far as we normally did. We got to verse 24 here, but I think that's a really, really great way to segue out and segue into the next. So we'll finish this up next week. But yeah, and hopefully Felipe will be here next week. So he's good with the structure. Like he's good with being like, all right, let's read this, let's do that, let's talk about this. I'm more like, hey guys, let's just talk about life. Just like, I need Felipe here. But yeah. Things I've found a lot of substitutes hard to find sometimes. You only had days where you did care for. It's a pain. I miss Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A! I love Chick-fil-A! I get it. I like cats and dogs as long as I don't have to own them. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I actually just went to Wendy's yesterday, and Wendy's had no lettuce. And their entire, like, I asked, like, okay, I'll have this salad. And they're like, oh, we don't have salads. I was like, okay, well, I'll have this burger. And they're like, well, we don't have the lettuce for the burger. I was like, why no lettuce? Why? And they said that because they get all their lettuce from California. And I guess in California, they've been having these droughts and fires and, I don't know, winter rains. Like, weird things have been happening there. So their lettuce population's, like, gone. So now the rest of us don't have lettuce. which I'm not too upset about because I don't really like lettuce, so it's fine. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I just don't. I'd rather eat like a burger. And whether there's lettuce or not doesn't matter to me. But anyway, don't mind talking about life. I love talking about life, but it's important to talk about Jesus too and how he wants us to live our life. That's kind of the whole point of these streams. You know, I just want to like casually read through the great book with y'all and talk about life, like how this applies to our life. That's the most important thing. Thank you guys so much for joining. How many people? 13 people watching? I'm like watching myself right now. Let's hear what he has to say. Whether there's lettuce or not doesn't matter to me. But anyway, he doesn't know what he's saying. Anyway, so let's talk about. Oh wait, we already talked about it, so we're good. Let's segue out. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next stream, which will be this time next week. I'm trying to remember if I have any traveling going on. No, so I'll be here next week. So we'll be good to go. I haven't been advertising these streams on like the main channel because I'm trying to get a good feel of how these streams are going and get a good structure going. But as soon as we're done with this Book of John, I think I'm gonna like run a massive like GEN180 campaign, like a whole campaign on the main channel. I don't know. I just like it smaller. I like a smaller amount of people. It's like more intimate. You know what I mean? But this is fun. I like this. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day or evening or whatever time it is for you or whatever day it is for you. It's Saturday for me. And you guys have a great rest of your week. I guess it should be the week. We're in the weekend right now. I guess Sunday is the first day of the week. Is it Sunday for anyone? I think it's Sunday for people over here. Like people over in Korea, I think it's Sunday for them already. But yeah, I think it's noon. No, midnight for people in Korea. But yeah, I get distracted with that and I go on these little tangents in my brain. But anyway, love you guys. You guys have an awesome rest of your evening and I'll see you in the next live stream. Take it easy.